Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. I'm your host for this evening, Steve, aka Negative Ned. Unfortunately, Frank will not be joining us tonight as he has some other obligations. And so I will do my best to hold the fort down for him. I cannot and I am not going to promise that I won't overrun because I habitually overrun. I will do my best not to. But thank you, everyone, for joining. And let's get started while I post the link in the comments so you guys can join. I'm going to start off quickly. A couple things. We're going to start with the Red Sox quickly because they made some news this week that I'm not happy about, which is par for the course, right? So the first thing we have to take care of is Yankees suck, baby. Go Dodgers. Congratulations to them. Congratulations, Mookie Betts, Dave Roberts, and any other former teammates on. I think Joe Kelly and Ryan Brazier are on that team. So kudos to them. They got the job done. I'm glad because not happy seeing the Yankees win. So Yankees suck again until next year. Good for them. Getting to the Red Sox news. Over the last few weeks, they have hired a biomechanist, and that is a guy that looks at motion and so forth. I think that they're looking at that to try to help correct or fix some of the existing pitching staff, which I don't think is going to work, and I'm really not sold that it's going to work. They also hired Tampa Bay Rays director of predictive modeling, Taylor Smith. He's the analytics guy, and everybody knows how I feel about these analytics nonsense. I'm not happy with that. But what that led to is this past week, Craig Breslow had a meeting with his staff. He had a Zoom meeting with 300 baseball people under 4 pillars: acquisitions, development, R&D, and operations. And they have one person assigned to each of those groups. Some of them have the title of, assistant general manager. Some of them have other titles regarding scouting and so on and so forth. But the one that's got my attention and the one that's drawing the most ire, the most of Negative Ned's ire, is the R&D, which includes analytics and biomechanics, which Taylor Smith will lead. I am so frustrated and aggravated and pissed off at this crap because this tells me that they're not going to spend money. And I think we've all known now that they're not going to spend money, but this further cements the notion that, they're just going to drive the bus with these guys, and they're not going to have any more big contracts. Listening to sports radio this week, I heard them talking about John Henry when Mookie Betts' contract came around, and they're not interested. John Henry is not interested in mega deals. He's not interested in these $300 million contracts. We've talked about it here enough over the course of 2 years that we've been on here, which is now either last week or this week, is actually Boston Straight Shooters 2-year anniversary. So congratulations to me and Frank and all of you for your support and for tuning in. But John Henry, came out not too long ago, over the last year or two, and lamented about how much, more money he's spending on the front office, on all these analytics people and just front office people in general. Dude, you got 300 guys or women or team or whatever you want to call it. There's 300 of them. That has to be the most in the league. For a team that only got 81 wins this year and 78 last 2 years, I mean, you're getting, the math doesn't add up like that team should be like 10 people. There should be like a couple of people in the R&D. There should be a couple of people in the analytics, and there should be a couple of people in this group and that group. But that's it. You don't need 300 of them. What in the blue hell? I will say this. I think that even though he's complaining about having to spend money on all those people, it might still be cheaper than paying, 100 and something or 200 million or 300 million to ball players. And so he doesn't want to spend that kind of money on them. And I think it's sickening. I think that, I understand that they're part of the umbrella with all the rest of this Fenway Sports Group crap. And he doesn't want to invest, and he doesn't want to overspend and spend the luxury tax and so forth. But this market will not, at some point, support a team that doesn't win. This finishing third and basement and whatnot. I hope people stop going to the ballpark. I hope people get smart over time and just be like, you know what, I'm done with this. They're not showing me anything. And it's time to move on to something else. And at some point they will. It's not going to be extreme as I want it to be, like we have, Chicago and Oakland with like 30 people in the stands. But if a quarter of that stadium is empty, that's a pretty solid hit for them. So I'm pissed off at at all this nonsense. I mean, and to listen to Breslow and Sam Kennedy beat around the bush and use this, word salad, nerd type nonsense, it makes your head spin. And you're not even talking about sports anymore. You're talking about just, drivel. And before anybody gets on me, and tries to be offended with the word nerd, I got two things to say to you. Get a grip and buy a vowel. Okay? They actually give them out for Halloween, so I don't want anyone being offended. You can take that and put a sock in it. And I actually saw a license plate on the way home from work today that said "Be Nerdy." An actual license plate, Massachusetts license plate that said "Be Nerdy." So that guy's not offended. People aren't offended. So stuff it. That's all I got to say about that. The Red Sox, we have a long way to go to talk more about them. I just wanted to get that out because I'm frustrated with the stupid analytic nonsense. And now to find out that there's freaking 300 of those idiots sitting in a freaking Zoom meeting, I'm not happy with that. All right, I'm going to move on because the Red Sox aren't worth any more breath. We're going to move on to the Patriots. I know people want to talk about the Bruins, but I'm going to hold off a little bit. I do want to talk about the Patriots because they actually came back and beat the Jets, which is a very encouraging sign that they didn't quit on their team, that their players didn't quit on their coach, after Gerard Mayo called them soft. and I got to stand by here. Soft, S-A-W-F-T. He called them soft last week, and thankfully they didn't take it personally and quit on him. So I think it was a good win for them. I think it was a solid win. I think it was a good comeback. They were losing. Drake May got hurt. He got concussed. He had to leave the game. They were behind. Jacoby Brissett came in. He did a good job. He led them back to the comeback. I think that they're getting better. And the Jets, I think, did somewhat beat themselves. I mean, geez, they used all 3 timeouts in the first quarter. Who the hell does that? That's a dysfunction. Excuse me. That's a dysfunction on their part. And there were some other things that happened that were dysfunctional for them, but I think overall it's hard to be too negative about them getting a W after all the turmoil from the previous week. So, of course, there's going to be some negativity. The wide receivers are dropping way too many balls. Jalen Polk, I don't even think he dressed, but some other guys had some drops. And so they need to rectify that. Get the quarterback putting the ball right in these guys' hands, and they're not coming up with the ball. I mean, critical plays, third down. Ball's in your hands. You got to catch the effing ball. There's no excuse. especially if you guys want to have success and start winning some games. Don't be sitting there telling us I got the best hands in the league and drop 4 balls. F you with that nonsense. You need to do something about that. But I think the O-line has played better. Is it great? It's still, put it this way, it looks better than it did the last, I don't know, a few weeks ago when they were just getting completely tormented. And guys were going around them like they were standing still. I think that they're getting better in the passing game, and they're suffering in the run game. So early on in the year, they were running the hell out of the ball. They were stuffing it down everybody's throats, and the run blocking was real good, and the pass blocking was not as good. But I think that it's reversed now. I think the pass blocking is getting better, and the run game needs to get better because now they're running for like 2.3 yards a carry. And, 50, 80 yards, not even 80 yards in a game. It's like 50-something, 40-something yards in a game. That's not going to cut it over the long haul. You have Stevenson when he's on and he's healthy. He's a solid running back. You got to make use of him. And I'm glad that they got the touchdown at the end of the game and he ran it in from the 1 yard line. So there's definitely some encouraging things. I mean, there's a few typical, false start, holding, whatever penalties. I think the special teams was better this week too. They didn't get gashed like the week before. So overall, I think solid game. I mean, the defense played decent. They weren't perfect, but they were better against the run. They didn't get gashed for 100 and something yards, 150, 80, 90 yards. So that aspect was better. I think they made some plays when they needed to. Pretty solid game back there. Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. They did let him make some throws and some plays, but somehow they forced the Jets to look bad on the last drive, and that's a pretty good defense that gave up what they did on the last drive. Is listen, Jets have pretty good defense. That's impressive. You can put in your back pocket going into this week, and this week's a winnable game. Tennessee's in shambles like you. Their quarterback, rookie quarterback. Well, yeah, they drafted him last year, Will Levis. He's dealing with some kind of shoulder injury, so he's questionable for this week. So I don't even know who their backup is, but they have issues too. They don't have Derrick Henry back there anymore. They traded DeAndre Hopkins, their top wide receiver. So now you got Calvin Ridley is their number one guy now. So look, they're in the same boat. They're 2-6, I think, too. It's a winnable game. I'd like to see the Patriots go down there and do something solid down there. And regardless whether Drake May plays or not, I mean, it's obviously better if he plays, but he's in concussion protocol right now, and he's in step 4 out of 5, which means he's questionable and he hasn't been ruled out yet, which is a good sign, which means he could be cleared tomorrow, or he could be cleared, as a game time decision on a Sunday morning. So the jury's still out on that. I'm kind of torn whether I want him to play or not. I mean, obviously, I want his health to be considered first. So if he did sit, it wouldn't break my heart. But if he's able to go and all the signs are clear and they clear him, because it's not just the team that clears him, there's an outside medical person or staff or whoever it is that has to clear him, then hey, put him in and let's keep it rolling. I mean, he's been the spark that they needed on offense. He's elevated that group, which is what you want your quarterback to do. So, obviously we've talked about over the beginning of the season and on, we wanted him to sit, but at this particular point, you can't sit him anymore because Jacoby Brissett was getting 32 yards and a half, and that was driving me crazy. It wasn't good enough. He wasn't pushing the ball downfield. A combination of other things we've already discussed. I'm not going to get into. But I want to give him credit too. Jacoby Brissett, because he stayed ready last week. He's been professional, and I'm sure he's done that and shown Drake May the ropes, and that's what you want. Uh, those are the kind of guys you want on your team. You don't want a guy like Aaron Rodgers that's gonna, you know, he doesn't do good with rookie quarterbacks. He's not going to be doing good with, training Drake May, how to be a pro and all that stuff. So uh, I'm encouraged. I am encouraged that, there's a possibility he could play this week. And we'll have to see where that goes. But I have, 3 keys to the game. Continued O-line improvement. With all the mixing and matching that they've been doing because of injuries and so forth, hopefully they'll start getting some guys and get some continuity there, and continue their improved play heading into this week. And hopefully no more injuries because they can't afford them. Don't beat yourself. They got to stay away from the stupid penalties that prevent them from moving forward. They can't be taking, 1 step forward and 2 steps back on offense in particular. So I want to see some improvement there. I want to see the run game improve, and I just don't want them to beat themselves. Penalties, special teams, don't give up big chunks. Don't be stupid. No 15-yard, unsportsmanlike conduct crap. Just dial it back and get right. And number 3 is they have to take advantage of any mistakes that Tennessee makes and cash in. If they get turnovers, they have to be turned into points. You can't squander those opportunities away. I know it's a road game or whatever, but we should be, with the improvements that they made last week, they should be improving and they should be capitalizing now on other teams' mistakes, especially a team like Tennessee that's in the same wheelhouse as them. And so they gotta get off to a good start too. They come on their first drive 3 and out and then give up a touchdown. That's not going to be good for them. They don't. I shouldn't say they don't do well playing from behind. They came back and beat the Jets, but it's not a strong suit. Let's put it that way. Before we move on, I do want to talk about the Josh Uche trade. They traded him. They traded him to Kansas City, which I'm sure everybody's like, "What the hell did you trade him there for? Why are you helping the Chiefs?" That was my initial thought. My thought also is they only got a 6th-round pick from him in 2026. To me, the haul wasn't big enough. But I've been reading comments from different outlets and groups talking about how his snaps had declined over the last few weeks. He wasn't getting as much playing time. His effectivity was down. He wasn't getting good pass rush. He wasn't stopping them. Teams were running at him, which is part of the reason last week looked so good. He didn't play, but they were running at him and getting those big chunks of yards. And also earlier this year, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Devon Godshaw called out teammates for going off script, so to speak, and trying to do their own thing. And comes to light that it might have been him that he was referring to. And so that's also part of the reason he was traded. And so, my thought last week when I talked to Frank is that he was going to get traded to a team like Detroit, who lost their top pass rusher. And, it was mentioned that, hey, look, it's not like, 10 teams were calling the Patriots trying to get them and pry them away. That Chiefs offer might have been the only offer that they got. And so rather than, for lack of better reasoning, instead of being like, nope, we're not helping the Chiefs, so you can't have them. It's like, okay, let's get rid of him. Let's get something from him before he walks away as a free agent. And his salary is not that much, so it doesn't matter. And so also, when the guys, the guys can sense who's on board and who's not, and maybe he wasn't on board, and maybe the other guys, the rest of his teammates, had sensed that he wasn't on board, and maybe that helps clean up the locker room. I mean, we've seen Bill Belichick take chances, and I'm not saying he was a bad guy or a bad locker room guy or any of that stuff. I'm just saying that he has taken on the Corey Dillons and the LeGarrette Blounts and the, Rodney Harrison was discarded by the Chargers and so forth. And so, and maybe those aren't good examples because those guys were good Patriots, but, if he took a chance on a guy and the guy was I should use Antonio Brown as probably the best example of a guy that just, was a complete head case. We took a chance on him and then they cut ties on him. It's like, okay, bye. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like the management and or the coaching staff and the players could have had a sense that, like, okay, this guy's not on board. He's not helping us. We have to clear the dead weight out of the locker room so we can move forward as a group. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, look, this happened when they traded Lawyer Malloy back in 2002 to Buffalo. When Belichick, he got cut and got picked up by them, whatever. We when the year they picked up Rodney Harrison, it's like we went from, my initial thought was we went from championship defense to puke, and got proven wrong badly. So, listen, and also something to factor in is, Josh Uche played his best football when Matt Judon was here. Those two were really kind of a dynamic duo together. And so not having him on the other side could have been hampering him or not allowing him to play better and get the sacks he was getting a few years ago. So all in all, let's just say I'm not as negative or upset as I was when that trade initially happened. I really felt that they should have got more for him. But given where they are and what they've been. And so, look, I think it's possible that a few other guys might get traded. You might see somebody like Osborne or Kendrick Bourne get traded. I want them to get 2025 draft picks, but in a case of like KJ Osborne, what's his value? He's going to go somewhere else. I'll just say San Francisco for the hell of it because they're down so many receivers, right? The kid the Patriots tried to get, Ayuk, is out for the year with a torn knee, something, whatever. I forget what he has, but he's gone for the year. They're either going to get Kendrick Bourne or they're going to get Osborne. I'll just say Osborne for now. They probably get a 2026 draft pick. But if they trade Bourne, maybe they get a 2025. And again, I don't want to see Kendrick Bourne traded because he's been a good Patriot. He's saying the right things. He's been a leader. And this young group of receivers needs somebody to look up to. And, KJ Osborne, him and his cryptic, tweets and whatnot, it's obvious he's not happy here. So, again, anything that's going to fray the locker room, if he's unhappy, get him out of here. Fine. Cut your losses and move on. The team can't afford, Gerard Mayo can't afford, he can't afford to be babysitting right now. Excuse me. He can't afford to be babysitting. That coaching staff and the team, they just can't afford to have those kind of issues. Malcontented, unhappy players. Judon was unhappy. It was obvious, and they had to trade him. So I'm not upset that they traded him because, what he wanted for money and his whole issue about being unhappy, it wasn't going to work. So fine, go somewhere else. Again, not that I wanted to see him leave. I like him as a player, but I mean, if you're not going to be reasonable and you're going to be, a malcontent the whole time you're here, and you're not going to help the team win, you're not going to be a real leader, then you can't be here. And that goes for all. That goes for all across all sports. And sometimes, a change of scenery is better for those guys. They get rejuvenated. I'll use Mac Jones. Everybody, busting his chops. Everybody knows the story about how, Belichick and Matt Patricia ruined him or whatever. We're not going to revisit that history, but, sometimes these guys just need a change of scenery, and it benefits them and it benefits the team too, because you're getting these malcontents out of the locker room, especially now you're trying to build, and, the whole old school Patriot way is kind of gone. And so, Uh, I don't think we're going to see that again. They'll call it something else now, which is unfortunate. The idea behind Belichick leaving is, we would have hoped that over the last few years he would have broke Don Shula's record and left the team in good shape. He did not do that. And so now we are where we are. And now, I hear people, calling up sports radio and making comments about, how the Patriots should tank just to get the number one pick and all this stuff. And, whether or not they should take, Travis Henry, and I think he plays for Colorado, right? Colorado, right? College, whatever. He's a two-way guy. He plays wide receiver and cornerback. But listen, I don't want them to do that. I had them at 6 wins at the beginning of the year. I'm going to stick with that still because I want to see improvement. I want to see them go from 4 to 6. I want to see improvement every week. I want to see some upside. I want to see something to be excited about. I don't want to see what I saw 2 weeks ago when they just got annihilated by Houston, and it's a lifeless. We don't want that. I in particular don't want that. I mean, so what if they pick 8th or 10th instead of 1st or 3rd? I mean, I don't. That's not that shouldn't be a goal. Right, a goal should be, okay, we're rebuilding, but we should be able to improve on what we did last year. To me, 6 wins is a solid improvement. And then next year, you're adding more. This garbage about, weaponizing the offense, Elliot Wolf. I'm calling on you right now because you didn't weaponize the offense. I'm sorry. And I give you guys credit for going after Ayuk and trying to offer him $30-something million. You're going to have to pony up and step up next year and actually get somebody to be that guy in the offseason and really weaponize the offense so we can see, 8, 9, maybe even 10. That's kind of a stretch, but they should be in the 8 to 10 window next year. They should be improving. They should be, in the wild card hunt. They should not be, regressing. And okay, we went from 4 wins to 2 or 3. Now we're picking in the top of the draft again, in the top 5. And then next year, it's the same thing all over again. And we're getting 6 wins. I mean, that progression can't. That doesn't work. And so, I want Gerard Mayo to have some success. I think if they improve and they're getting better, and it's 6 wins this year, and it's 8 wins, 9 wins next year, then they have a legit shot of building something. But if they have 3 wins again this year or 4 wins, and then next year they got 5 or 6 tops, then he's going to be gone. And then you're restarting the clock with everything again. New offensive coordinators, new coaches, blah blah, on and on and on. And that's not a good cycle to be in. That's not the kind of cycle you want to be in. And so, my hope for this team is that there's going to be improvement going along forward, and they'll win more games, whatever those are. Then they have winnable games. They have, Tennessee this week's definitely a winnable game. Indianapolis should be a winnable game. They have issues. I mean, any team that's in like the neighborhood you're in, you should be able to get some wins. And if not, then the games should be like within 7. You shouldn't be getting blown out by those teams. Shouldn't be raking you by 20 points in a game. I mean, has to be another factor. It can't be just the fact that you lost. It has to be, okay, how did we play in that game? Were we in the game? Or were we down by 30 and we came back and made it close? Like those kind of things, all that stuff factors in. I'm kind of getting off track a little bit, but you have to look at the big picture. And when you do that, you gotta factor in a whole bunch of stuff. I think Frank and I talked about it last year. Last year they lost 7 or 8 games within a touchdown. I mean, that means they were competitive. They just couldn't score. I mean, they couldn't get past freaking like 13 points in a game. And so that's part of the improvement too, which we've seen with Drake May and even with Brissett last week with them getting 25 points. That's a season high for them. So, you're getting 21, 17, 25. Can we be in the 20s every week? 21 to 27 points a game. That's a vast improvement over, 13 or whatever. We can't you can't win games scoring 10 or 13 points in a game, uh, which we talked about last couple of weeks. So uh, I am actually looking forward to seeing this game this week, just so I can see what they look like, and hopefully we can see some more improvement. All right, let me watch the time. I am going to try and get better at that. We're going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about the Bruins. The Bruins, oof, they are in hot water. Listen, Jim Montgomery's on the hot seat. They are just playing abysmal. I posted it. I haven't seen the team look this bad since Steve Castle was the coach 30 years ago. They just look out of sorts, disinterested. They're out of position a lot. And it's a bad sign when you get whacked 8-2 and the post-game commentators are like, they look like they're in disarray. And so that could be for any number of reasons, whether it's the coaching, the players themselves. I'll point to the GM, Don Sweeney, for not, adding sufficient scoring or building it so that they could add sufficient scoring. So there's a deficit, and there's a lot of new faces, and so you got to try and piece the puzzle together. And I said last week to Frank, and maybe even the week before, that it's a bad sign when your fourth line is the best line. Those guys are supposed to bring. They're supposed to bring energy, and they're supposed to be physical and chip in with a few goals here and there. But they were scoring all the goals. They were scoring most of the goals. I mean, and so when they're scoring 2/3 of the goals, that's bad. I mean, that just can't happen. So Jim Montgomery shuffled all the lines around. He took John Beecher from the fourth line, left wing, put him on top line with Zacha and Pastrnak. He split up. So he originally had Elias Lindholm, the big free agent we signed, with Pastrnak and Zacha originally. That combination has failed to click for whatever reason. And then he put Lindholm with Marchand and Kastelik, however you say his name, the kid we got the trade from Ottawa, on right wing. Moved him from fourth line center over to right wing on that line. And then he took the fourth. He took Coyle and put him on the third line with drawing a blank for a second. He had Poitras with, I think, Brazeau and Frederick on the fourth line. So it's a complete demotion for all those young guys. And then he put Coyle with I'm drawing blanks, but nonetheless, you get the picture. He's not happy with the way they're playing. Morgan Geekie, who had a breakout year last year, who I dogged in the first half, and I had to eat some crow in the second half, but he's not been good. None of them have been good. And I can already hear the Swayman talks about, you got you got his money. Now he's playing like crap. Well, I don't really blame him. I understand he didn't have training camp and he held out and he was being stupid. I was all over him for it. But in this particular case, he's getting hung out to dry. I mean, I could say that probably 4 of those goals, at least, nobody was covered. Just they're leaving guys wide open in the slot. They're leaving guys open behind them in front of Swayman or whoever the goalie is, Corpusalo. Their defensive positioning is horrible. And after the game, when the commentators there in the post game point out, and one of the plays, 4 Bruins were behind or near the goal line, which is where the net is, trying to play defense. And you got 3 guys on the other team out, and one of them's in the slot. The guy gets it and throws it in front, and the guy is by himself. I mean, they're not covering anybody. They don't know who their assignments are, or they're ignoring them, and they're trying to instead of do your job, they're trying to cover everything, and you can't do that. I mean, again, we talk about cohesiveness with the Patriots offensive line. There's no cohesiveness at all. I'm watching these guys skate around. Some of them just skating around in circles. they're causing bad turnovers. They're not fast enough to get in on the forecheck and get cause the defense to turn the puck over. And so, so to my own detriment, I wanted them to get bigger and more physical, but I mean, they tried that, and the game is too fast. So you have too many guys that are too slow, maybe, that just can't forecheck and get in there and get these turnovers. But they're not. Their passing is not crisp. They just don't look good. And so that leads to the speculation about, whether Jim Montgomery's going to get fired or not, and how long can they go. And, if the playoffs were right now, they'd be out of the playoffs. They're in the basement. They're in last place in their division. 2 games under 500. It's a long time since we've seen that. It's probably been 10 years. And so, look, I always say, it usually takes 20 games or sometime right around Thanksgiving to figure out, like, how good you are or how good you're going to be, what you're going to be as a team. But in this particular case, I would say it's only going to be 1 or 2 more games tops that they play like they did yesterday, and Jim Montgomery's getting fired. I mean, they just can't they can't come to the rink lifeless like this, and it's not working. They'll have no shot. Look, this happened to Edmonton last year. Edmonton got off to a wicked slow start. I want to say they were, I don't know, 6-12 or 9-15. I don't know. They were off to a bad start. They fired their coach, and that guy came in and turned them around. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So they added some pieces at the deadline too that helped. But before that, he turned them around completely from where they were out of a playoff spot into, I want to say, first or second in their division or damn near the top. And look, you gotta pull the trigger quick in this league. You can't wait till December 1st if you're floundering the way the Bruins have been floundering. I mean, being shut out twice in a 4-game span, losing 4-0 to Nashville, getting shut out to a team that had no wins. They were 0-5, and you got shut out by them. And then you lost and beat Toronto, and that was a pretty good game. I think their effort was better, but this yesterday, I mean, 8-2, 13 or 15 shots on goal for the whole game. I mean, that's not the Bruins. They're not that bad. I mean, well, I should say they haven't been that bad. That's really, really bad. That's low. That's what they usually do to other teams. They usually outshoot teams 36-18 or double and triple the shots for, and the shots against is like minimal. It's like half or a third of what they get. I mean, this is uncharted water for them. And so look, I'm going to point to the turnover because they have a bunch of new faces. And so look, I don't know if this would help now, but I think it's time to look and start trading some of the players on the team. I've been calling out Brandon Carlo for a week. He's been horrible. He's not covered anybody on defense. He had a goal bounce off his foot yesterday. That's just a bad break. I'm not gonna hop on him for that. But the other goals, he's not near the guys. And how his rating is -2, that's hocus pocus baloney. He's played worse than whatever his plus minus is. I don't even look at that. I'm watching the plays and the replays when he's out there and they're scoring, and he has just looked bad. I would say out of all of them, he's looked the worst. Hampus Lindholm is not a physical defenseman. He's got that European style where he's gonna try to, block a shot or use his stick. And man, it's unfortunate. I don't know what happened to him, but that combination isn't working. Zadorov, as much as I want him to go out there and pound people and hit them, I think he's kind of overdoing it. It's like he's purposely looking to take guys out. Yesterday, I could see it, and it's like, okay, dude, listen, just play your game and hit them when the opportunity arises. And he had a few of those, but he also had some where he was like chasing the guys around. It's like, dude, don't do that. I want you in front of the net, clearing out the guys that you guys are letting get behind you, is what I want. That's why I want big physical guys in front of the net and push those guys out of the way and get them the hell out of there. So Swayman or whoever's in net has a chance to freaking make a decent save without being by himself. I mean, that's just, it should be hockey 101. Even Charlie McAvoy, I said it a couple weeks ago, he didn't play the man, he played the puck, and the guy went right around him. It's like, you guys need to stop playing the man, and you guys got to get your skating better. I mean, whew, I could go on and on. I do have a point that I want to make, though. I mean, I think that, again, I think Don Sweeney's part of the problem. I think Jim Montgomery right now is trying to make filet mignon out of chicken salad. And, as much as I really didn't care for DeBrusque, who they let walk, he's a streaky guy, but he was fast and he can score 25 goals in a year. And they're missing that. And Danton Heinen is not a lost piece for me. I don't care about him. He's not a typical 15 to 20 goal scorer. It's not regular for him. He usually scores around 10. I'm not upset by that. I'm not upset that DeBrusque left, but they didn't replace 41 goals. Replaced it with nothing. And so, I get it. They got themselves in cap jail again because they had to pay Swayman, and they paid Lindholm, and they paid Zadorov. And look, those are guys I wanted. They didn't replace Bergeron last year with a top guy. And so to me, they got a guy that's he's like a second level kind of guy. He's not top 10 centerman, whatever, but he should be good enough to be, a 60-point guy, and make plays and be responsible defensively. All the things that we heard about him in the preseason, about him having a game that's similar to Patrice Bergeron, they need that, and they're not getting it. He's got 1 point in his last 8 games. That's not going to cut it. You're paying that guy almost $8 million a year. That's bad. They have to get more out of him somehow. I don't care who you put with him. They got to do something to figure it out. But I think, and you know what, Marchand, everybody loves Marchand. A little ball of hate, blah blah. But he looks out of sorts too. I don't know what happened between him and Montgomery. I know they poo-pooed it, but he doesn't look right either. He's not beating the men that he was beating before, and I don't know if it's just his age or whatever, but I think that they need some, and I don't think that they'd trade him because he's the captain. I can't remember the last time I've seen a captain get traded. Typically, and the Bruins, they fall in love with their guy, so they're not going to do it, I don't think. But I think that would send a major wake-up call to the team if somebody like Brandon Carlo or Brad Marchand or anybody else for that matter were traded, and be like, okay, am I going to be next? And get a boot in the rear end. And shock them and say, okay, look, we're not tolerating this crap anymore. You could be next. I'm telling you right now, even when they re-signed Brandon Carlo, $4 million a year, I'm sorry, he doesn't play like a $4 million a year guy. He's too soft. I'm gonna pull it out again because he is too soft for his size. 6'5", 220. I'm sorry, he doesn't push people out of the way. And they need better from him, and they're not getting it. So I just think that, listen, if they miss the playoffs, and again, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to be talking about this later on, but everybody could be gone. I don't know if Don Sweeney would be gone, but Montgomery's going to be gone, and they should be looking at trading guys out of here and getting some new blood and change the makeup of the locker room. Sometimes you need to do that. And maybe it's undervalued that, a guy like Pat Maroon, a veteran, could be, a locker room presence. But, I mean, they have enough guys that have been here long. Charlie Coyle's not playing well. He played well last year. I mean, he's a veteran guy. He's been here long enough. I mean, they should be getting more out of the guys they have. I don't know what the issue is, but they should be picking up the young guys and helping carry them along. Now, also, the young guys have opportunity, so they should be taking advantage of that. I mean, they're making mistakes. Mason Lowry made a mistake yesterday he shouldn't have made behind his net. Uh, that's a coachable moment. I don't want to see him benched, and don't stifle his creativity. But teach him and tell him, hey, look, this is unacceptable. You can't be doing this, guy. Get your head screwed on straight, and let's rectify it. But there's a bunch of that. Just bad turnovers in all the zones. The stupid Toronto game. Typical. 1 minute and 17 seconds left. They have to give up a goal and cause the Leafs to tie it up. I mean, again, it's early. I hate to get all negative Ned now already, but that's got to be addressed somehow. That's got to be fixed. I'm sick of seeing this. That should only happen like 5 times tops in a year. This happens to them 10, 15 times. That's terrible. It's not good enough. So I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you right now, I'm obviously not going to be alone, but if I see tomorrow night when they go to Philly and they play the way they did against Philly, getting shut out 2-0, and the way they played yesterday against Carolina, getting their ass handed to them, I don't know if Jim Montgomery will make it to Sunday's game at home against the Kraken. I'd be willing to bet if they lose both those games, he's probably going to get the can. He's probably going to get canned. I can't. You just can't have it. You just can't have that. I mean, they just don't look interested. There's something wrong. And you're not going to be able to put your finger on it from here, but they need to figure it out. All right, let me jump to the Celtics. The Celtics are off to a good start. Thank goodness somebody around here is doing something. They had an opening week last week. They smoked the Knicks in the first game. They smoked Washington, so they got 2-0 right out of the gate. They shot, 61 threes or whatever it is in the first game. And they're just going to keep hucking them up. They beat Detroit. They pulled away against Milwaukee. That was a tight game. I think the Detroit game was kind of tight, too, for a little while. So it's a good challenge for them. Against Indiana the other night. Excuse me. Against Indiana the other night, they fell behind by 24 points. They came back and tied it up. That's a good sign that they didn't quit. I was like, all right, well, they're dead. I mean, I'm just, I really didn't expect them to come back. But I was encouraged to see that, because how many times have I come on here in the last 2 years and been like, oh my God, they blew a 20-point lead against this team. They blew a 24-point lead against that team. And they lost the game. Well, so, all right, the shoe's on the other foot. They didn't win the game, but I'm encouraged that they have the ability to come back in those type of games. And listen, it's only the first week, so I'm not going to go negative net on them for losing the game the other night or hucking up all the threes. I understand now, that's the way the league is. Again, I'm not a fan of it, but that's the way. And look, they got off to a bad start. The threes weren't going in, and none of them were going in. And so this is what happens to them. They're going to get torched. The other team was on fire, and they were hucking up the threes left and right, and they weren't going in. And so they're going to have those. If that's what they're going to live and die by, then that's the way it's going to be. But I think it's encouraging, especially, Pritchett and Hauser came in. They provided some spark in the comeback. So, I think that those guys, so what I'm looking for, there was improved play from both of those guys last year, and now they're integral pieces, and they have the ability to step in and provide more. Provide more than what they have in the past. They can be relied upon more. Peyton Pritchett, if he keeps shooting the way he has, and he plays good D. He's a scrappy kid. So, there's definitely some upside there with those guys. I think that one of their issues is definitely going to be inside. The guy in Indiana, Siakam, the center there, he went off. And he was going off on Al Horford, couldn't cover him. And I don't recall seeing Horford play much in the second half, but that kid was killing him. And they had no answer for him all game long. It didn't matter if Cornette came in or Tillman or Cueto or whoever. I mean, there was no answer for that guy. And so that could be something to be watched maybe later on, because I was glad that they brought everybody back. Trust me. And I had said that, Porzingis out hopefully a combination of all those guys, Horford, Cornette, Queta, and Tillman. Those four guys can give, 15 points and 10 or 12 rebounds a game combined and do something. But if they don't play defense and they can't get stops, then that's going to be a problem, because that's mostly what those guys are. Cornette's mostly defense. He's not going to score 20 points in a game. I know he has, but they're not relying on him for that. They're relying on him because he's tall and they're going to need him to play D and block some shots. So they need, Al Horford, he does a good job. I mean, it's commendable what he does for his age, right? I'm not here to pick on him at all, but there was a case there where he just didn't have any answers, and maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's the scheme or the plays or whatever. I don't know, the defensive alignments. It could be a number of basketball-related things that I'm not as good as Frank or Kev at discerning, looking at them defensively. But look, they played tight. They played tough defense to come back, and so that's all around too. That's not, I'm not picking on those guys. They obviously did have some part to play in them coming back. So look, it's the same thing for them. They're going to huck up threes, but they have to come back and play tough D and be, if they were the top defensive team last year in the top 5, they have to continue to do that. And I believe they will. There's no, they have the best backcourt, with Holiday and White, in my opinion, and having Pritchett there as the third guy, I think is good. Look, everybody's been saying it. They have a stacked, loaded roster. We're lucky that they kept them together. They have what they need, I think, to make a deep run. You're going to get Porzingis back in the second half. That's going to help. But, I think we've talked about it a number of times. If there was a way for them to add another big guy, and they're hard to come by, but if there was a way for them to add one, I would not be opposed to it, depending on what you have to give up to get it. And I do want to mention, because I'm pretty sure Frank is aware and would have brought it up, that I think it's Lonnie Paxton, the guy they signed to that weird contract last week, decided not to go to the G League, and he went to some Euro League or something like that. So they saved $10 million on the cap, but now they lose a potential depth guy that they could have used in the G League. And possibly brought him back later on. But, I think that they got enough guys. I mean, a guy that you'd like to see maybe take a little bit more of a step forward would be Jordan Walsh, the kid they drafted last year. He's got good energy. He's young. He's got a shot. And, he's played aggressive on defense. I mean, look, you need those guys to be able to spell Tatum and Brown and whoever. And so I know he played minimally last year, but maybe there's an opportunity for him to get some more minutes and be a contributor, make a real contribution to where they're going and what they're going to do. And I was watching the game earlier, and they're playing the Hornets tonight, who are coached by former assistant coach Charles Lee, who was here last year when they won the championship. And so that game was close. I think it was 54-53. So look, that's a team that's gonna play hard. They've been in the 20s the last couple of years for wins. I think last year they won 21 games, and the year before that they won like 27 or something. So they're trying to get their program straightened out. And so they're going to play hard no matter what. And so look, the Celtics just have to, follow whatever process they're following. And if it's 53s, then so be it. Negative net's got to live with them. I just hope that they drain more than they miss. It's a long way to go again. For these teams now in October, November, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't want to kill yourself and see guys get hurt or whatever in November when you want them healthy later on, and you want to. And I know there's load management stuff. I think Al Horford's got the night off for load management. I don't even know how to describe that thing anymore. I don't know how they figure out. I know how they figure out. They have scientists and these analytics guys, and they say, yeah, so and so's muscles are going to be weak this game, so I'll sit them out and all that crap they got going on now, which I don't get. But he's got a load management night off against a team that they should be able to beat without him, right? And so when they start playing the better teams, you're going to need him out there. I want to see them out there when he's playing Miami and Philly and Milwaukee and so forth. So, look, unless they suffer a major injury, which I hope they don't, obviously, you got Tatum and Brown. As long as those guys are healthy and the starting five is healthy, they're gonna win more games than they lose by a mile, and they should. And hopefully they won't get into bad slumps, and the threes won't be a detriment. I did hear some talk today on sports radio about now people are talking about potential rule changes. They don't like all the threes. It's too many. And so I'm not the only one that's not in favor of all these threes, but they're talking about eliminating the corner three now. I don't know how you would do that other than just, making that shot a 2-pointer, regardless of where you're from in that corner over there. So I don't know how they figure that out, but that's fine if they want to do that. I want that, it wouldn't break my heart. I think, the players themselves would be pissed off because hey, I'm working hard to get open to get this shot off and you're punishing me for making it. Right. So I could kind of see that. And I'm sure that the players have to vote on it or whatever. And that, any rule changes they come up with probably have to get voted on. I mean, the only other option is, move the 3-point line back further. I mean, you got these guys taking 50 footers or whatever they are anyways. I mean, that's some of the shots that they take from way beyond that arc. It's like they're making them from there, right? Steph Curry just, drains them in his sleep. Maybe they do need to move that line back. Move that 3-point line back, another X feet. I don't know how many feet it would take, but, we talked about it. We've talked about it. I've asked Frank, there's no inside game anymore unless teams really want to pound the inside. And it's difficult for them to do that if the Celtics come out hot and they drain, 8 of their first 9 3-pointers, and all of a sudden the team they're playing is down by 12. You don't have the option to go inside as much as you would think, because now you gotta match. You gotta start taking your own threes. It's kind of like being behind in football, right? By 20 points, and it's the third quarter, and you're behind by 20. Now you're passing it all the time. You're getting one-dimensional because you don't have a choice. I think that basketball gets a little bit of that. But I definitely miss the old school, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robert Parrish, all the great centers that played back in the day when they would post up, down low. You don't see that anymore. Very rare. And so the game is, obviously we've been talking about the way the game has been changing. And, I guess at some point something's got to give, because you're going to have just all these guys just jacking up all these threes all game long. I mean, at some point, why not just have a 3-point shooting contest? That would be boring as hell, though, I think, over time. But look, the Celtics are in good shape for right now. So just got to enjoy it for now. And, the play-in tournament, I think, is in a few weeks, I think. That stupid thing they had last year. So I'm curious to see how far the Celtics will go to win it. I want to say Indiana, or the Knicks won it last year. I think it was Indiana. So I'm curious to see about that, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. All right, let me watch the time before I run over. We need to get to the predictions and the poll questions from last week. We're going to start with the poll questions. The poll questions were: did the Patriots get enough in return from the Chiefs for Josh Uche, a 2026 sixth-round pick? Yes, take what you can get, 0%. No, should have gotten more, 100%. So, again, everybody that voted wanted them to get more. But like I explained, I think given the circumstances and, given what I know now, I'm not as upset about it as I was. Still would have been nice to get a 2025 sixth-round pick instead of 2026, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess, in this situation when you're rebuilding the roster. Next question. Who's most responsible for the Bruins' offensive struggles? Don Sweeney, 40%. Jim Montgomery, 60%. The players, 0. At this particular stage, I'm going to say Don Sweeney because I don't think that there's enough talent. Yes, there's veterans and there's guys that have been here long enough that should be playing better, but I think that the new guys and the lack of scoring that he provided to Jim Montgomery, I think is causing some of this. So that's where I stand on that. Let's see. Surprise for next week. Okay, so this is last week's predictions. Last week's predictions, I said that Josh Uche would get traded to Detroit. I had half the prediction right. He got traded, but he went to Kansas City, so I had the wrong team. I also said Carolina Panthers were going to fire their coach, and I'm wrong again. Back to Washington General territory. Oh, for whatever. I was wrong. Frank had a bunch. He said that Jerry Jones is in hot water with the fans, and there's going to be calls for him to fire the coach, and he sticks with the coach. And I'm pretty sure there's no change there, so I don't think he's going to fire him. I don't think if he fired the coach, that it would get them over the hump and get them to make the playoffs. That's just my 2 cents. He did say Russell Wilson was going to have another good game. He was 28 for 278 yards and a touchdown. So 2 for 2, Frank. Ding, ding, ding. Another wide receiver trade. He said Cooper Kupp to Detroit, but it actually ended up being Hopkins to where the heck did he go now? No, not him. Mari Cooper. Mari Cooper went to Buffalo. Hopkins went to, oh man, this is bad. I'm drawing a blank. He got traded. I can't figure out where it is, so I got to move on. Sorry, I'm drawing blanks right now. But he was kind of half right. More wide receivers were on the move, and that could be the case again going forward. He can keep his Cooper Kupp prediction for this week. We'll keep it there because I think the trade deadline is Wednesday, maybe. I forget the exact day, but I think it's next week. He said the Bruins were going to lose to Dallas and lose their next game as well. He was half right. He was half right. They lost to Dallas and they beat Toronto, so he gets half credit for that. Excuse me. Predictions for this week. I'm going to say, and again, this is not like, Frank will be like, oh my God, it's too easy. But I do think that the Patriots are going to trade KJ Osborne. Where he's going to go, I don't know, but I do think they're going to trade him. He's not happy here, and they got to get whatever they can from him, whatever it is. So there's one. And also, I think Jim Montgomery's getting fired sometime either next game if they play poorly or Monday or something. I just don't see them sticking with him if they're playing as poorly as they're playing. So those are my 2. And again, they're not earth-shattering or anything like that, but, I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall. So, the Washington Generals need a couple of gimmies every now and then. So I'm going to throw those out there and see if I can get them. Let's see. What am I missing? Oh, the football picks from last week. So Frank and I made picks. Frank got 9 right and 7 wrong, and I got 11 right and 5 wrong. We forgot to pick yesterday, so I'm not going to count that. And I don't know if he would have picked the Jets or not, but I probably would have picked Houston. However, I didn't realize their top 2 wide receivers are missing, which is part of the reason that they lost and part of the reason that Stroud looked as bad as he did. So that has to be watched now going forward for them. Because, anytime you lose, your top wideouts, you're going to have struggles. So we're going to make picks again, I'm sure. I'll be keeping track of them. And I think that's it. That's it for the show, everybody. It's time to wrap up. I did go over, as usual, Frank, sorry. But it's not too bad. Just want to thank everybody for your support. Thanks for voting in the polls. And thanks for the comments. And don't forget that we are on YouTube now. So we'll be posting the videos over there so that, hopefully you guys will help spread the word for us. And we'll be back next week. We'll be talking about whether Jim Montgomery's still around or not, and, whether the Patriots can get another W. And what's going on with the Celtics? Do they keep chugging along? And we'll see you right back here next week. Thank you, everybody.